Hey, well, welcome in, people, to the Dirty Pocket. After a week off, completely my fault, with a whole bunch of travel junk, we are back. I am joined by my partner in crime, the scout, Mr. Daniel Kelly. How are you, my friend?
Good. We're back in the pocket again.
Oh,
We're
no.
back.
Whips out an 80s karaoke rendition to get us started.
Wow. You talk about coming off the edge. I mean, that's.
It's kind of some Aerosmith right off the edge from the scout.
And I have a new drink for us tonight.
Okay. So let's just get started with tradition before we break into all things Dallas Cowboys.
Here,
What do we got
listen.
for drinks?
Let's take a listen. Did we hear that?
I definitely heard it.
Okay. And
Oh, bang. He's going with the bang energy drink.
Key lime pie, which is one of my favorite things in life, is key lime pie. I'm in Key West. So with the bang. Now, this is a bedtime treat. This makes me real sleepy.
What?
Yeah.
It's an energy drink.
Caffeine doesn't affect me at all. But hold on for a second. Hold on. Okay, here we go. Ready for the promo spot? Okay, here we go. When the Dallas Cowboys season does not get off to a bang and Sean Payton is your next head coach, reach for a key lime crazy pie drink.
Bang.
Bang. Because you know Sean Payton's in the wings. We're talking Dallas Cowboys tonight. Mike McCarthy better start packing that office. Sean Payton, he's right around the corner.
Shots fired. Just we starting off with a bang. I guess it's an appropriate endorsement. Call us Bang Energy Drink. Let's talk about making you guys official sponsors of the Dirty Pocket.
That's right.
This Sean Payton thing. I mean, God, let's get rolling. I mean, good grief. I mean, Mike McCarthy's getting $100,000 fines for inappropriate practices at OTAs. I mean, it's like handwriting's on the wall. If there was ever a lame duck coach, Mike McCarthy looks like a guy who was, I got to be honest, I'm shocked he's still there. I thought he was a one and done guy.
I'm actually shocked, Stacey, that he ever got hired in the first place in Dallas. That was such an odd hire when I looked at that. It was so strange. And the odd part about it was, of course, Troy Aikman. I mean, he was positioning for Mike McCarthy in the booth for a couple of years on Fox. If you recall, he's always making nice unsolicited comments, which we got bracketed with the rabbit ears. I really think Troy Aikman kind of felt that, maybe, McCarthy could slide in there and maybe, Aikman could slide from the booth into the front office, but it didn't work out that way. It just turned out to be a really odd situation. When I heard that, when on HBO's Hard Knocks, when I heard that that speech that McCarthy gave in front of his team about his zip code where he was from, and he dropped about 10 F-bombs, I was like, you know what? You're going to be going to a different zip code pretty soon, buddy. That guy is an overrated, overpaid. It's just incredible. And I think you're right. That's a lame duck coach if I've ever seen one.
Doesn't he just smash?
Sean Payton's just waiting for that job.
Yeah.
Payton's a disciple of Bill Parcells, who, of course, that's the staff I worked at with the Jets. Obviously, the Jones family loves Parcells. Sean Payton. I mean, it's a look for it coming to a theater near you.
Yeah, I think it's a foregone conclusion. I mean, there was all these rumors this week about the Tom Brady Miami Dolphins Sean Payton takeover, whatever it is you want to call it, that never came to fruition, basically because of Brian Flores filing that lawsuit, which is basically what killed that whole thing. But Sean Payton to the Cowboys, it feels like this has been meaning to happen for a long time. Drew Brees retires. Payton takes a year off. The rumors are flying. McCarthy, I look at Mike McCarthy. He doesn't look like a bad guy, but he just smacks of a guy that's a high school football coach. Like, you could just see him at Friday nights, just inspiring young 16-year-olds. He just doesn't seem like an NFL guy to me. Certainly not for the Dallas Cowboys. I mean,
no. What a strange hire. Just it doesn't fit whatsoever.
Well, again, it came at a time when they They give Zeke money and they give Dak a bunch of money. So you've got your core, you got CeeDee Lamb, you trade away Amari Cooper, but you've got this core group, and then you hire Mike McCarthy. I mean,
Yeah,
it continues to be weird.
Kellen Moore should have been hired in that situation. What he's done with that offense is extraordinary, and he should have got a shot at that job, in my opinion.
So the Kellen Moore thing, very interesting. I saw some recent studies that his offense is one of the least complicated for a defensive coordinator, which goes to tell you, I mean, was it not so much last year, but the year before, the Cowboys had an explosive offense.
Well, they did last year too. They did too last year too. You know, I took the liberty of writing down a few dozen stats here, you know, before our show. And what's interesting is, you know, statmuse.com is one of the best websites for research, you know, that I do when it comes to my articles. And StatMuse, they have all sorts of different cool stats. And they talked about last year in 2021, the Dallas Cowboys had the most yardage of any offense in the NFL last year was 6,919 yards. So that's, you know, that's saying something, kind of piggybacking off what you're talking about. And of course, I would be remiss if I started this show without talking about the fact that the Dallas Cowboys are my wife Samantha's favorite team. You know, she's even got a star tattoo on her arm. So I mean, you know, so I have to tread pretty lightly. No, I'm just kidding. I don't tread lightly under any circumstances for anybody. I'm always coming off the edge in the pocket, but you know, at least, you know, I want to give her a shout out because, you know, that's her team. So, yeah, Kellen Moore, big time offensive production, and would have made a lot more sense, you know, as far as the becoming the Cowboys head coach and McCarthy. It's just, you know, a team is like a recipe. Okay. A team is like, you know, that's, as an aspiring GM, this is something that a lot of people overlook. And I don't think a lot of people even think about when it comes to NFL teams. But it's like being a gourmet kitchen. This is what I learned from Bobby Beth, who in my mind is the best general manager in NFL history. Somebody I kind of, you know, studied and learned from growing up, the GM of the Washington Redskins. And people say, well, why would you say that? Just because you're a Redskins guy? Well, no, Bobby Beathard only had, I think, the 3 number 1 draft picks in 11 years. And he built a team that, you know, really went to the Super Bowl 4 times and won 3 of them. And also, he hired Joe Gibbs, who nobody had any idea who that was. And Joe Gibbs is only coach in NFL history, won 3 different Super Bowls to 3 different quarterbacks. And now the quarterbacks he won with are highly touted. Joe Theismann was up in the CFL. Mark Rippon was a 6th-round pick, you know, out of Washington State. And Doug Williams, of course, he bounced around and was in the USFL, and he came back to the Washington after starting with Gibbs back in '79, you know, down in Tampa Bay. But I mean, these are all unheralded guys. So I mean, and what Bobby Beathard did is he understood chemistry. He understood bringing in lower round draft picks. He understood bringing in guys that nobody else wanted, free agent types, misfits, melding everybody together, kind of like the American philosophy: give me your poor, you're tired, you're hungry. Bring everybody together and making a team unit. And you know, that's something that you know, that's somebody I learned a lot from growing up.
Oh, good stuff, man. So let's unpack the Cowboys under the microscope a little bit, and hopefully some people from Cowboys Nation will join us or send us some comments or at least tweet at us, whatever the case may be. But we want to, as we continue this off season and it starts to get slow here outside of OTAs leading up to training camp, we're going to unpack some of these teams. And yeah, you're a guy who watches that NFC East pretty closely. And we're going to take a look at the Cowboys. Let's unpack them post NFL draft. And again, we'd love to hear from Cowboy Nation or those who follow America's team. Maybe we should call it Samantha's team.
Samantha's team. I think so.
She would probably love that.
She'd probably love that.
But let's take a look at the Dallas Cowboys. So taking a look first just at that front office, I just don't think you could even talk about the Dallas Cowboys without mentioning Jerry Jones.
Absolutely. I received a call from Mr. Jones' office a few years back when I sent a letter to him. And, you know, Mr. Jones is a fascinating individual. If you ever want to watch a good piece about him and information background about him, they did a real nice show about him on 60 Minutes kind of his upbringing and everything. And his dad, it was kind of interesting. His dad, they said, well, where did you learn how to have this big stadium and the big screen, all this? Well, his dad actually owned a supermarket and used to put a band inside the supermarket to draw in customers. So Jerry kind of grew up with that, that kind of like that big show mentality, that showmanship that's kind of transferred on to being, the Dallas Cowboys stadium there with that big screen. And when we're talking, getting back to chemistry for a moment, Jerry is the chemistry's been off with the whole team ever since Jimmy Johnson left. It's never been the same. Of course, Jimmy Johnson and Jerry Jones were roommates back in Arkansas, and they came back together with the Dallas Cowboys years later. But when I was talking a moment ago about Bobby Beathard and kind of tying that back together, the chemistry of the team, the recipes, the kitchen, the chemistry, putting the team together is so important. And Jimmy Johnson kind of was that missing link, the guy that came in there, and he was able to kind of bring that locker room together with that college, that hip hip hooray. He was able to kind of meld that whole team together. Jimmy, of course, with the University of Miami background, used to the superstars they had in Dallas. They kind of brought everybody together on that. And ever since Jimmy Johnson has left the building, kind of like when Elvis left the building, ever since Jimmy Johnson left that building, it's never been the same. And it never will be the same again. Because Jerry understands this is very critically. I hope Cowboys Nation turns up the volume a little bit here, because the thing about the Dallas Cowboys, okay, is that they are a collection of football players. They are a collection of individuals that have no cohesion on that team. And that's why you have a group of players. They're all kind of like their own thing, their own star players, their own star power over the team, but they do not play as a team. And that's why they were bounced in the playoffs again. And that's why we see the memes on Facebook and Twitter and run around stuff where it talks about, there's some 80-year-old woman on there that says, she was a cheerleader last time the Cowboys won the Super Bowl. That's why, because they do not play as a team, and they won't play as a team. I don't care if I don't care if the salary cap was $3 billion a year. Jerry Jones cannot and will not build another Super Bowl champion as long as he lives, until he's able to bring in somebody who can form that into a team again. So when you're talking, Stacey, about how it starts at the top, it does start at the top, but they just do not have the cohesion. And as a result of it, it's kind of like a Christmas present or some kind of birthday present or something you wrap, and you're almost running out of Scotch tape, right? Have it ever happened to you? You're kind of running out of tape, and you have to kind of compromise, and you maybe use like something else, or try to tuck the paper in, but it doesn't quite hold the present together. That's what the Dallas Cowboys are. They lack the cohesion of a unit, of a team, of a chemistry. It's almost like making dessert and being light on the sugar.
Okay. Analogies are forthcoming. I mean, you are just a volcano tonight with the analogies. Like,
well, it's
the Bang energy drink.
I knew what it is. I mean,
I knew it was going to go sideways. Yeah, I want to say right out of the chutes, I just don't see how anyone thinks the Dallas Cowboys have gotten better. I take a look at them, and
they've gotten worse. They've
gotten worse. I look at them as a team. Of course, it started with them sending Amari Cooper to the Browns, which was a somewhat suspect move. I don't think it's the end of the world, but just taking a look at some of the players and some of the moves they've made thus far. They've added James Washington from the Steelers, Dante Fowler, who used to be with the Rams, then was an Atlanta Falcon, then Ryan Nall, the backup running back in Chicago. But listen to the guys that they've lost off this squad that, they couldn't be taken lightly on any given Sunday, but they so underachieved. This is a list of the guys that they've lost. I mentioned Amari Cooper. They lost Cedric Wilson, who I think was underrated. I know you were big on him too. Yep. Connor Williams, the guard, who has had a couple of games with Aaron Donald that stand out. He also went to the Dolphins. Randy Gregory pulled that. I'm coming back.
Cedric Wilson went there too. Cedric Wilson went to the Dolphins too.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. So Dolphins picked up a couple players. Lyle Collins went to the Bengals. They were desperate need of offensive
Good
line.
player, very good
Yep,
player.
good player. Greg Zuerlein, former Ram, ends up on the Jets. You may know about that. Then, of course, DeMonte
Break
Casey.
the leg.
Yeah, Greg the leg. And so their special teams takes a hit there. DeMonte Casey goes to the Steelers. Then Keanu Neal, who they had kind of been using as a hybrid safety linebacker, goes to the Buccaneers. It's just a list of role players that you're kind of like, wow, they lost those guys. But then when you take a look at their draft picks, and I know you look at the draft fairly in depth, and I want to start on the defensive side of the ball because I know how sideways you're going to get about a certain player. But just looking at the draft picks, where you just know how many different holes this team needs to fill, they go with what I thought was a bit of a reach with the tackle Tyler Smith out
Huge
of
reach.
Tulsa.
Huge
And
reach.
then the rest of them, again, this is not any slight against these players. These are all good players, but whether or not they're impact players, I think is pretty questionable. D. Williams, the defensive end from Ole Miss, Jalen Tolbert, the wide receiver from South Alabama.
He was a good football player.
Yeah. Jake Ferguson, tight end from Wisconsin.
I like Ferguson.
Good ball player. I thought Damone Clark late in the 5th round out of LSU. Not big on him.
Oh yeah, no. Damone Clark, I thought had an undraftable free agent written stamped all over him.
Okay,
he was awful on tape.
Okay, so again, yeah, nobody pops for you when you consider this is the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, no,
and so I think
very
in terms, very lackluster. So let's start on the defensive side of the ball. And as usual, our friend MTO is here, and I'm just going to let him kick off the conversation because it's almost like he knows you and he might be reading your mind. But let's just start with the defensive front seven of the Dallas Cowboys. And oh my God, MTO, you had to go there. Here it is. And here we go. We're about to embark into, I'll have to rein in the scout after a couple minutes and move on to something else, but we're going to give him his say on the Dallas front seven. Cowboy Nation, what say you? You look at that, I was a little surprised that they brought Kyle Vander Esch back, if I'm being honest, with his injury history. I thought they'd move on from him. But let's start on defense. MTO's got a couple other great comments here, but let's just start here and get it out of the way early. I have literally seen in the last 2 days some of the national media saying Micah Parsons is the favorite to win Defensive Player of the Year. I literally can't believe people are still rooting against Aaron Donald, but okay, that's fine. Just keep doing that. Micah Parsons, here he comes on a linebacking core that has got the kid that they drafted last year out of LSU. Then they've got Kyle Vander Esch. They lost Randy Gregory. The defensive front line. What say you about this defense? And let's just start with number 11.
Okay, let's start with, I'll unpack the defensive front seven. And I'll unpack number 11. Okay, number 11. Okay, Micah Parsons. This has been somebody that's kind of like been a hot topic conversation concerning me since before he came out of, before Dallas drafted him. And, I gave Micah Parsons, in all fairness, a first round grade pre-draft for NFL draft time. As you can see the report. See, that's the beauty of this thing. Okay. I'm held accountable to my reports, the game film. It's all out there. I'm not hiding behind anything. And I labeled Micah Parsons as an explosive underachiever. Okay. At Penn State. Now, does he have the ability? Absolutely he has the ability. Does he have the speed? Absolutely has the speed. Does he play when he wants to? Absolutely he does. And he takes plays off whenever he feels like it, okay? Now, this is the thing that people don't see because the common fan, and I love the game and I'm a fan, to see watching a game at a sports bar on TV is a way different experience than evaluating game film. When I'm at a bar having a beer and trying to, make sure my buffalo wing doesn't fall on my jersey, I'm watching where the ball's going, okay? And just like everybody else does, okay? But when you zero in it's such a different experience watching game film and going back. And I mean, if you don't have NFL Game Pass, it's like $100 a year. I encourage you to get it. You can go back and watch the last 10 years of any game you want to in the league. It's just wonderful. They have coaches film. You can watch sideline, end zone. You can watch, it's all 22, it's called, and you can watch all the games. Okay. And when I watch the games, it's amazing. Micah Parsons, but is a rule of thumb, takes at least half the plays off every single game. Okay. And the play, oh, absolutely. He is soft. He is hesitant. He gets pushed around like a rag doll inside in the run game. He's just embarrassing when he tries to take on offensive linemen. They push him around. The big boys have their way with this guy, okay? 11 looks like just like a rag doll most of the time with these offensive linemen, okay? And every now and again, he'll pick and choose a little area of weakness or an area of vulnerability, kind of like a lion. He likes to compare himself to a lion. He's kind of like a lion in the jungle, kind of like, a stalking wildebeest or some kind of lame gazelle or something with a limp or something. He'll find an area of weakness. He's very good at this, and he'll expose it, and he'll dart through, and he'll get a sack, and everybody will say, "Oh wow, there he is again. He's the next Lawrence Taylor." Listen, this guy can't hold Lawrence Taylor's cup of Gatorade. Okay, that's a ridiculous comparison. I grew up watching Lawrence Taylor. Blow past offensive tackles, offensive guards, running backs, and tight ends on the same play to get to the quarterback, okay? Lawrence Taylor was an animal. He was a monster. Micah Parsons is it's just nothing like that, okay? I can't think of the analogy to that, okay? But Micah Parsons, you want to talk about Cowboys Nation, turn up the volume. I'll go on any platform in America, any talk show in America and talk like this. I wanted to get me on with Dan Quinn, okay, the defense coordinator of the Cowboys, and let's talk about Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons was an embarrassment to the playoffs, an embarrassment who took more than half the plays off. Okay, he was a guy that got pushed around, and he is a major reason why the Dallas Cowboys got bounced in the first round of the playoffs. 0 sacks, fooled around, had maybe 5, 6, 7 good running plays, run stops, had a couple like that's about it. Okay, he took that game up. He stole a paycheck from Jerry Jones. The Jones family should call 911 and report a burglary. Okay, because he stole the game check that game. Okay, from the Jones family. He was awful at home. Playoffs, get bounced. He was an embarrassment. I've dealt with Micah Parsons' dad before on Twitter, and I often drop little notes to Micah Parsons on Twitter myself, because he's always making little comments here and there. He thought he was a hero because he paid $20 of gas money for 10, 11, 12 people, and he makes these comments about how the price of gas is so much. Come on, Micah, who are you kidding? Okay, listen, this guy is outside of Kirk Cousins. He's the most overrated player probably in the National Football League right now, okay? Defensive Player of the Year, not a chance. You want to talk about Diggs, the corner? Way more deserved, okay? Diggs is a good football player. Okay. Parsons, on the other hand, no, not at all. Not at all. Matter of fact, Micah Parsons is an embarrassment in the generation I grew up in. The guy he's like LeVar Arrington all over again. These Penn State backs. Oh, yeah, absolutely. No, not at all. I'm not a big fan at all, and I would love the chance to go on a national show and just tear him to shreds. Let's put on the game film. Let's put on the game film. Let's do one better than that, okay? Let's bet another job in the NFL for me if I can come on there and prove what an embarrassment Micah Parsons is in the National Football League. Let's put it on the line. I'll push my chips up, and Micah can push up his gas money. Let's go.
They're going to point to those sacks. They're going to point to him getting to the quarterback.
Absolutely, yeah. It's all people care about is the sacks and getting to the quarterback. But you know what? For every sack and every time he gets to the quarterback, there's about 2, 3, 4 other plays. You want to go back and see some embarrassing plays, okay? Go back and watch the 2 touchdown runs the 49ers had in the playoff game. Pull those up, okay, and see what I'm talking about. Watch the first touchdown play run, okay, when the 49ers first scored on, I think, the first drive of the game, when wide receiver of the 49ers, Brandon Ayuk, absolutely positively manhandles Micah Parsons on the edge. And Parsons is so, for lack of a better word, pissed. Okay, he turns around and takes a swing at him. Should have been ejected from the game. It was Cardonius Toney all over again when they played. The Giants played the Cowboys. Took a shot right at the guy right after the play because he was so frustrated. dude, you're a linebacker in the NFL, and a receiver is handling you, okay? And then on another play, okay, Greg Kittle handled him, the tight end of the 49ers, handled him. I mean, just like
Kittle's a beast.
handled them, okay? And then go take a look, Cowboys Nation. If you want to see your hero turn into a zero, go watch the Deebo Samuel touchdown run when Micah Parsons is fooling around in the inside and goes kind of half speed as Deebo Samuel takes off the end zone and closes down your season. Okay, that's Micah Parsons for you. So yeah, he gets some sacks here and there. He does that type of a thing, and that's what he lives off of. But I will challenge anybody in America that for every sack he gets, he's got at least 2, 3, 4 plays that are give up football. They're an embarrassment to the sport, and they actually end up costing your team touchdowns and games. I mean, if you go back and look at the Tampa Bay game earlier in the season, okay, Micah Parsons, he was supposed to be covering a couple different things. He opened 2 windows for Tom Brady through 2 touchdown passes, okay? So the plays that he makes are what everybody focuses on. But I challenge you, Cowboys Nation, start looking at number 11 during the games and find out what kind of a liability he is the rest of the time.
Okay. We got the Micah Parsons diatribe out of the way. The scout is not a fan, has not been a fan since he was at Penn State, and continues to not be a fan of Micah Parsons. MTO apparently caught some of your film work there and says, yeah, he wanted nothing to do with some of those tackles. And I do remember the Tampa game. There was a couple of stuff inside the red zone that was right in his gap. So
I respectfully have a message to the Jones family. Okay.
Oh boy.
If you want to win another Super Bowl, I'll win it for you. Okay. I'll come in and the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to deal Micah Parsons.
I got a feeling they're not taking you up on that because
they'll never win again, though. They'll never win again. I'm the person that can win this for them. I know how to build a team.
Love that confidence.
I can win it for them, okay? But we got to get lazy football players off our football team that are just in it for the money. And it starts with Micah Parsons.
Okay. He's playing for that, for the bag for that next contract. So I'm sure that there will be some pushback from Cowboy Nation and people that may watch or hear this. I think what's interesting is you look at that Dallas defense, particularly the front seven, and who else scares you? I mean, DeMarcus Lawrence is obviously a great player.
Well, yeah, that's Samantha's favorite player of the team.
Okay.
That's
with good reason.
She loves Tank, okay? But you know, and of course, he had kind of a down year with the injuries and everything. I like him a lot too. Tank plays the game the way it's supposed to be played, okay? He's a good football player, okay? Last year, I think he was at 21 tackles, 16 solo, 3 sacks, 1 interception. I have written down here. In the injury-shortened season, 7 regular season games plus the playoff game. Here's the thing about that defense, okay? That defensive front seven is the Achilles heel of the Dallas Cowboys, okay? Because you have Tank, okay? And Dan Quinn, I think, is a good coach too, I might add. Okay, the defensive coordinator, I think he's a very good coordinator, okay? But, yeah, losing Randy Gregory was a big loss for them.
Big blow.
Because this is a guy that had 29 pressures last year in 12 games in 2021, plus he had – he had some sacks, 6 sacks, and he had 55% snap count. Randy Gregory is a good football player. Huge loss for the Dallas Cowboys to lose him. Outside of that, I think, it's a real concern. I mean, this is a defense that ranked 14th last year in the NFL with 41 sacks overall, 16th overall on teamrankings.com, another good website to look at with 2.3 sacks per game. And their rush defense ranked 20th. Giving up 115.9 yards per game, according to team ranking as well. Now, when you look at that defensive front seven, you have to look inside. I looked at ESPN.com at those 2 defensive tackles. Carlo Watkins had 17 tackles last year at 1 sack. Then you have Neville Gallimore at 5 tackles and 1.5 sacks. Then you touched on, Stacy, at middle linebacker, Leighton Vander Esch had the 77 tackles, 48 solo. That's very low for a middle linebacker. Those numbers, 1 sack. Of course, he's had the extensive neck injuries and neck surgeries and troubles like that. He did play 17 games for Dallas last year. That's a big accomplishment for him because he had missed a lot of action playing in only 9 games in 2019 and 10 games in 2020. He came back and he did show he could come back. Now a big problem there too is also this last during the OTAs, their weak side linebacker, Devontae Bond, blew out his knee, and he's gone for the year. So now you're going to have to turn over to Luke Gifford. I'm not sure if he's any relation to Frank Gifford, but Luke Gifford starts. Well, maybe a grandson or something. Who knows? But he starts weak side linebacker with only 8 solo tackles, 0 sacks last year. So So here's a picture I'm trying to paint. Okay, words paint pictures. So what we have here is we have DeMarcus Lawrence Tank coming back at one end. Okay, and he's a good football player. You don't know what's going to happen at the other end spot for them. That's unproven. The linebacking core is real weak. And Parsons plays whenever he feels like it. So he's undependable. But the thing I really want to illustrate is the real weakness of the team is like the funnel. You ever put oil in a car, right, with a funnel? Okay, with that defensive tackle, the funnel, right? The funnel starts like that defensive tackle, the middle linebacker, that triangle right in the middle of the defense is very weak. Okay, from a pass rushing standpoint, they're not able to get pressure up the middle with big sack production, and then Van Der Esch is low on the tackles. Look for teams to try to run it down their throats up the middle, and that's going to be a real issue for them as far as what they're going to do there. That weak side linebacker spot is a big concern. I really thought they were going to address some of that in the draft, and they failed to, like you pointed at the top of the show, Stacey. But their defense. Like I said, Parsons, he's a wild card, but that defense overall is really Achilles, the front seven. Now their secondary is actually the strength of their defense by far.
Yeah, their secondary has some solid players in Anthony Brown. Jaron Kearse comes over in the offseason to play the strong safety, Malik Hooker at free, and then Trayvon Diggs. I'm not as big on Diggs as you are. I think he's a good player, but I think the interceptions clouded the fact that man gets burnt a lot. And I mean, he gets burnt a lot.
Well, he's a big play. He's a big play. He's an all or nothing guy.
He's a ball hawk.
Yeah, he's a ball hawk. And just like, if you look at Anthony Brown too, I looked at him. A lot of people don't know a lot about him, but he had the 1 forced fumble, 3 interceptions, 17 passes defense last year, tied for 4th in the NFL. I mean, that's a ball hawk too. You talk about Kearse at 67 tackles, 67 solo, 10 passes defensed, and 2 interceptions. Another guy that's coming over as a ball hawk. Malik Hooker is just a fringe street free agent guy that's bounced around a little bit. I wrote him up for the Lions, for all Lions last year. I didn't really like him when he was coming over, I think, from Philadelphia, when he played over there, if I'm not mistaken. But, he's only had, 30 solos, 1 interception, 2 pass defense. He's not really the answer at this point of his career. But the other 3 guys are real solid in that secondary. But here's the problem, okay? In today's NFL, you've got, if you're going to have a chance, okay, in this pass-happy offensive world that we live in this fantasy football-driven, ticket sales-driven NFL that we live in, okay, you have got to be able to get to the quarterback. That's the concern for the Dallas Cowboys. Is being able to get to the quarterback and stop that run. Okay, you got a good secondary, just like the Jets. Okay, they built up the secondary. But you know what? I don't care if you have 4 Deion Sanders back there in the secondary. If the opposing quarterback has 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5, they're going to tear anybody to shreds, okay?
Yep. You've got even an average guy. Yeah, an average quarterback will beat you.
Absolutely. You've got to be able to get disruption in the pocket. The name of the show, The Dirty Pocket. The pocket is where the money's at, and you've got to be able to get to the quarterback, and that's the concern. And how Dallas is going to get pressure, because outside of Micah Parsons and his ability to dart in and get the pressures, okay, outside of that, then you got Tank. Who's going to rush the passer on that defense?
Yeah. I don't know.
How good will that secondary really be? Collectively, talent-wise, they're good. Will they be good if they sit back there for 5-6 seconds? No.
Yeah, and I think that they tried to answer that a little bit with the Dante Fowler signing from the Falcons. I can tell you, Fowler
That's
was
Dan Quinn.
yeah,
It's all nepotism. They
yeah.
brought him over because they're familiar with him.
It's not gonna make the grade. I can tell you, as soon
No.
as he left Aaron Donald, went to Atlanta, nobody heard from him again. And so, your point is, they got DeMarcus Lawrence, and they've got whatever Micah Parsons brings to the table. They got Trayvon Diggs on the back end. I don't think, to me, they've gotten worse. I think losing Randy Gregory is going to haunt them. And I
Huge
just
mistake. They don't know where to put their money.
Yeah.
They don't know where to.
That's Jerry Jones.
Mr. Jones, with all due respect, does not know where to put the money. You put the money. You pay Michael Gallup, okay, a guy who's had declining production the last 3 years, okay, statistically speaking. 2019, 66 catches. 2020, 59 catches. Last year, injuries, so short season, 35 catches. His average per catch last season's dropped, dwindled every season. 2019, 16.8 yards per catch. 2020, 14.3 yards per catch. Last year, 12.7. Okay, what do? Okay, and this is the same mistake that he made with Cooper a couple years back when they paid him $100 million. When I watched Amari Cooper on tape in 2019, he was awful, okay? His routes were sloppy. He rounded everything off. You remember that late in the season when Dallas was trying to make the playoffs that year and all these drop passes left and right? Cooper was part of that circus, okay? Then Mr. Jones paid Cooper all that money, and then he had a little resurgence in his career. Now he's allocated $62.5 million towards Michael Gallup, who Mr. Stephen Jones says probably won't even play maybe the first 2-3 games of the season because he's coming off a blown knee. Okay. Yep. That's where you put your money. That was the wrong place, in my opinion, to put the money. The money should have been put into a superstar pass rusher, a guy who could put heat on the passer. Every time you looked up, you saw, what was he, number 94? You saw Randy Gregory, pressuring the quarterback. That's where the money should have been put. Instead, you put in a lame, like a receiver with a limp, and that's going to come back to haunt the Dallas Cowboys. But I don't blame the Cowboys either, because outside of CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup, who do the Cowboys have at receiver? It's a list of nobodies.
Yeah, so let's flip to the offense. You kind of beat me to the punch, but let's flip to the offensive side of the ball, and let's just stay there since you started that conversation. I agree on the defensive side. I just think I think they're going to get rolled by much better teams in the NFC.
That's what happened in the playoffs. That's what happened with San Francisco. They could not keep up with Jimmy Garoppolo, the 49ers. They couldn't do it.
Right. I just don't think that they have what it takes to stick with the even somebody kind of dark horse like the Saints. I don't think they can keep up with the Niners. They can't keep up with the Rams. They can't keep up with the Bucs at full strength. I seriously have doubts if Carson Wentz can be just somewhat above average. I don't think they can keep up with the skill players that Washington has in their own division. And Terry McLaurin and Antonio Gibson. I just don't think they have it. So let's flip to the offensive side of the ball in the interest of time. And you mentioned the receivers. MTO's got a thought on that as well. He seems to echo your point. Honestly, outside of CeeDee Lamb, and we'll get to the backfield here in a minute. CeeDee Lamb's a great ball player. He's great.
He is.
But there isn't much going on around him now with Gallup out with the injury. Cedric Wilson moves on.
Big loss. Cedric Wilson's a big loss.
My early prediction here is that Jerry Jones is going to take a flyer on somebody like Julio Jones or AJ Green, bring in some kind of veteran. Yeah, he's got to bring in some kind of veteran presence.
OBJ or somebody.
OBJ.
He's going to have to bring in somebody. I'm amazed he didn't go after Jarvis Landry, to be honest with you. It's because, listen to these names, okay? We're football guys, right? We know names, right?
Sure.
Okay. James Washington, Noah Brown, Simi Fuhuku, Brandon Smith. I might be mispronouncing. I'm sorry if I am. Brandon Smith, Dennis Houston, Dontario Drummond, Jacarly, or I'm pronouncing Robertson. I'm mispronouncing that. But these are names that nobody's. I watch film for 10 hours a day. I've never heard of these names. It's like, so what are they going to do? And I agree with what you're talking about, MTO, with the tight ends. Schultz and Ferguson are two of the better tight end combos. one of the best setups in the NFL. Okay, those are going to be two. I mean, I like Ferguson out of Wisconsin. Those are going to be two of the better tight end situations. And what Dallas may have to do is adapt and try to go to a two tight end system and try to focus on doing some of that instead, because those receivers are it's just the depth isn't there. And if Gallup can't go, it's real simple. It's real simple if you're a defense. Just double up on CD and let your chips fall where they may.
Yeah, it really is one of those situations that just doesn't look good on the offensive side of the ball. They gave Dak that extension, 4 years, $160 million here just a little over a year or so ago. And, before we jump into the backfield with Zeke and Dak, let's stay up front. Let's stay on that offensive line. That offensive line looks like a hot mess. And it's really something when you take a look at the Cowboys, because for so many years, even in their glory years, and then just, short 4, 5, 6 years ago, they had one of the best offensive lines in football. As of right now, it looks like a disaster. I mean, you still got the big guy, Tyron Smith, at left tackle. You got Tyler Smith inside. Maybe.
There's rumors they might try to trade him.
Yeah, that's makes zero sense to me when you've got a franchise left tackle, Tyler Biadasz at center. Zach Martin is still the class of that offensive lineman.
Terrence, a great player.
Yeah, and Terrence Steele at right tackle. But nothing about that offensive line is scaring people the way it used to. Not at all.
Well, what's interesting is that offensive line last year was really the strength of their team, going back a year ago, because, I mean, when you looked at it, I pulled up some stats last year. I mean, last year, Dak Prescott was the 4th least sacked quarterback in the National Football League. It was tied with Stafford and Aaron Rodgers with 30 sacks. So, I mean, they protected him really well from a pass pro standpoint. And Dallas was the 9th best rushing team in the National Football League last year, averaging teamrankings.com, again, great site, 122 yards per game. So the offensive line was a strength. Now, this first round pick, this Tyler Smith from Tulsa, okay, he is not. Turn up the volume. I repeat, he is not a left tackle in the National Football League. This guy will get Dak Prescott knocked out of the game if he plays left tackle. Okay, he doesn't have the footwork whatsoever. Real raw. He's a guy that just does not have the hand techniques either. He'll get somebody killed if he plays at left tackle. Now, what he is. He's very mean. He's very aggressive. He's very physical. The Cowboys have him slated right now to play left guard. Perfect. Yeah. Okay. Now, when I drafted him in the first round, no, it was a reach at left guard. Even, I mean, for a reach in the first round. But will he be able to play that left guard spot and do pretty well for Dallas in that spot? Yes. If they move the left tackle, no. I mean, the Steelers. I don't know what the validity to these rumors are, but they've talked about the left tackle. Going out Tyron Smith going out to Pittsburgh, that would be just ridiculous. I mean, you can't trade. You can't make that trade if you're the Dallas Cowboys. You can't. But the offensive line as a whole can play. I mean that's way better than the defensive front seven. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting comment. I tell you what, the Tyler Smith. Kicking him inside is a great idea. I do think that times have just changed dramatically for the Dallas Cowboys up front. And in that's shocking because for a time they were terrifying. I mean, certainly during their dynasty years in the 90s, 2000s and whatnot, with the big the triplets and all that. I mean, you had Nate Newton and some of these guys. But even 4, 5, 6 years ago, the Dallas Cowboys offensive line was dominant. That is not the case anymore. It just isn't. They've got some holes or some real question marks up front, and they're playing in that NFC East where they're going to be facing that Washington Commanders defensive line. They're going to be facing the Philadelphia Eagles defensive line, which has got, a guy you love in Jordan Davis up there, and
Nakobe Dean,
Cox.
I love Nakobe Dean. He'll be flying in there. And then, of course, don't forget about Kayvon Thibodeau coming from the Giants.
Good point. Yeah, there's some real talent in that NFC East, and that offensive line, man. They just got Dak back from that horrific ankle injury that we all saw on national TV. This is scary. So let's jump into the backfield in the interest of time. Let's talk about the big money guys. You still got Dak. You still got Zeke and Pollard, Tony Pollard, who might be one of the most underrated players in the NFL as of right now.
Yeah.
Is Dak Prescott with that 4-year, $160 million extension? Can Dak Prescott win a Super Bowl?
Yes. He's that good. He's that good. He himself is that good. I mean, when I went back and I looked at Dak in 2019, I walked away super impressed. Okay. I mean, we all know I'm super hard on guys that don't have the talent or underachievers. And also I'm I'm probably the toughest grader in America.
No.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I say someone is a great quarterback, they've passed the DK test. Okay. The thing about Dak Prescott is his maturity level is off the charts. Okay, as a leader, he's just got this quiet strength to him, and guys just rally around him. He is everything a quarterback should be for America's team. I really like Dak Prescott. I can't say enough nice things about him. He's just the way he handles himself, the personal tragedies, the different things he's been through in his life, been through some hard things like we all have in some respects. But just the way he came back from that injury, the courage that he played with, and that's what frustrates me and upsets me the most is when I look at the Dallas Cowboys. It's like two sides of a coin. On one side of the coin, you have this courageous, this mature leader that basically is giving everything he has of himself to his team. And then on the other side of the coin, you got Micah Parsons that is just, it's like yin and yang. You got two sides of his coin. So you got Dak Prescott doing everything he can to make the Cowboys, put them in position to win the game. Then you got Micah Parsons working against you on the other side of the ball, giving up 2 touchdown runs because he didn't even care. But Dak Prescott, getting back to him, and as a Washington fan, you got to understand where I'm coming from. For me to say nice things about the Dallas Cowboys is unheard of. And my wife said to me tonight, Samantha said to me tonight, she said, you always go on the show when you're talking on the show. Oh, she asked me to ask you too how I smell tonight. I put on a little cool water before we came on the show.
I am on the other end of the country, but I'm going to go with you smell. You smell sexy, man. It just oozes out of you.
I mean, look at this. Okay. For me to say nice things about the Dallas Cowboys, she asked me tonight, she goes, you always go on the show, you always wear a different jersey, you talk about these different teams. She goes, are you going to wear some Cowboy stuff tonight? I said, listen, I'd rather go in front of a firing squad, okay, than put that stuff on. But ironically enough, I'll probably end up wearing the Cowboys someday. This comment will be replayed for everybody. Save the receipts, everybody.
I'd love to write for the Cowboys. They're fascinating as hell.
It is fascinating.
I mean, they're fascinating.
No, I'm talking about writing the team. Yeah, and you can write for him, and then I'll have you in the front. You can be my PR guy. You can do all that stuff and all the, that'd be fun. But hey, you can write the press releases and everything else, and that'd be fun. But the thing of it is, or whatever you want to do. I mean, it's up to you. But you're cool. But that's the thing is that I can't say enough good things about Dak Prescott. I really can't. I think he's worth every nickel. I think he is a face of that franchise. He is all that in a bag of chips. I think they're in great hands with Dak Prescott. Him by himself, yes, he has the makeup. I think he's underrated. He has the ability to win a Super Bowl. But the problem is they can't put the supporting cast around him to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I got to tell you, he reminds me of a lot of guys in the past, kind of like a Damian Lillard in the NBA, the Portland Trailblazers, or even Randall Cunningham at the NFL.
There you go.
He just has all this talent, and you can see it, but the formula built around him just never comes together. I don't see that defense stopping the NFC's offenses in a playoff race. I just don't. I don't see that. So I think it'll be tough for Dak. What do you make of Zeke? Before we close out the show this week, here's a guy that looked, outside him just 2-3 years ago, we were talking about Todd Gurley and Ezekiel Elliott, the two most dominant backs in the NFL. Gurley's retired for the most part, and Zeke isn't talked about much anymore.
Not as much.
Can he return to that elite level, so to speak, with sharing carries with Pollard?
Well, here's the issue I have with Zeke, is it kind of looked like he was kind of going downhill, and then he kind of had a resurgence last year. So I think he ran. This is a troubling part for me about Zeke. He ran harder last year than he had the last season or two prior. Everybody kind of felt that way, right? So why though? Why all of a sudden is he running harder? That's what troubles me when I see that on film. He was running the ball pretty hard for them last year. I think that he's, Dallas, as we touched on, has some real issues. I think that he's part of the solution still at this point and not part of the problem. But him and Pollard, I think, make a nice tandem. And that's one of the better parts of that football team and why they ranked, frankly, in the top 10 in rushing last year. I mean, that's really kind of the strength of what they're doing on that team.
Yeah, no, there's no question. I mean, personally, I think we've gone over the skill position players and some of the holes on the offensive line, but they do have the two good tight ends. You got to believe that they're going to run the ball, and that's kind of Mike McCarthy's, MO anyway, and Moore's. They want to work that running game into it. I don't think they want Dak Prescott throwing for 5,000-6,000 yards a season. I don't think that is going to get them to where they want to go. Okay, so as we wrap up then, where do you see the Dallas Cowboys fall in the much too early prediction category? We're not even to training camp yet, people, but if it started today, the season, where do you see the Cowboys finishing record-wise in NFC East? Do they make the playoffs?
I see them finishing second and finishing probably about 9-8 if I had to put a number on it.
Okay.
I think that they'll have enough in there. I mean, I see Philadelphia winning that division.
Wow.
And I see the Giants being pretty good too. I mean, the Giants could surprise a lot of people. The Giants could even sneak up on Philadelphia even. I think that, Brian Daboll with the Giants, I think is going to be a really good coach. And I think that Daniel Jones is probably going to have a monster season for the Giants in comparison. So, I mean, I don't expect much of the Commanders at all, but I think that Dallas will, they'll do enough. They'll do enough. They don't have enough to challenge, but they'll do enough to be competitive. And providing that Dak holds up. Okay. Now, if they make some boneheaded decision and send the left tackle to Pittsburgh and they put that kid from Tulsa out there, because here's the problem. Okay. Here's the $100 million problem that the Dallas Cowboys have that nobody's talking about. Okay. So let's turn up the volume and let's discuss it for a quick second. Okay, Stacey. Okay. The Dallas Cowboys do not have a qualified backup quarterback.
It's true on a lot of teams. Yeah,
they don't. I mean, the Cooper Rush, Samantha can't stand him. Ben DiNucci, Will Greer. I think these are their backups. It's awful. It's terrible. If the Cowboys were smart, okay, what they would do right now, and of course they are smart people. Okay, they're billionaires. So the Jones family is very smart. Go get somebody like a Baker Mayfield. Go get somebody that you can put in a backup quarterback situation, and you can be competitive with the guy, because as Joe Gibbs talked about, the backup quarterback is the second most important position on your football team. And teams like Dallas right now are sitting so vulnerable right now, especially with Dak, who's been injured, and they don't have a qualified backup. What does that mean? What's the translation? If God forbid something happens to Dak Prescott for the Cowboys nation, okay, the entire season you're going to hear a sound of a toilet flushing, and that's going to be your season if you have to turn it over to Cooper Rush or Ben DiNucci.
Yeah, that's over. I mean, I feel like you can say that about a couple of teams, but I totally understand the point. I mean, they're that shallow. They don't have a lot of depth on this team.
It makes no sense when you build a football team, when you build a team and you hope to make a playoff push, how you leave yourself that vulnerable at the most important position in your football team blows my mind.
Yeah. No, it's something. It's definitely something. We talked about it with the Detroit Lions too. We talked about it with several teams. It's something.
Well, Detroit, everybody expects that with the Lions. Is that there's going to be some holes, different places, but that is just, especially when like a quarterback like Mike White, okay, who they had down in Dallas as a 5th-round draft pick a couple years back. They had him in the practice squad. Okay, he went to the Jets last year. He came off the bench when Zach Wilson was hurt. He played really well and outperformed Zach Wilson statistically in almost every category and analytically. Okay, so if you're Dallas and you're sitting there this offseason and Mike White's a free agent, why don't you sign him? I mean, the guy, he's one of your own, and he's gone somewhere else and proved he can at least come in the games and play well enough. Okay, and he outperformed Zach Wilson. Why don't you go sign Mike White at least and bring him back into the fold? No. Instead, they sit there with Cooper Rush. Andy Dalton was available again this offseason. He ended up down New Orleans. Andy Dalton certainly is not the world's answer to quarterbacking, but it would have been better than Cooper Rush and Ben DiNucci.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. It's a good point. Well, my predictions on the Cowboys are somewhat similar to yours. I think they're going straight into the tank. I'm going to just be honest about it. And I actually,
Samantha's not going to be happy with you.
I know she won't be happy with me. You might be happy with me. I think one of the dark horse teams to watch, as bizarre as this may sound and as shocking as this may be to people, one of the teams to watch in the NFC East this next year is the Washington Commanders.
Really?
I have a feeling. I have a feeling if Wentz can get it together on any level on that defense, somebody could breathe some life back into whatever they used to be. I think that the Commanders can make some noise. I just get the feeling around the Cowboys, there's a wholesale fire coming for that whole place. I think McCarthy's gone after this year. I think Dak will have one more shot under a better offensive mind like a Sean Payton. I just don't think they're going to do well this year. I can't find any reasons to say, look, the Cowboys are going to make some real noise. The Eagles seem to have gotten better. And I think the Commanders, oddly enough, I think they're going to be one of those weird teams that go, is this where Carson Wentz should have been all along? Like something strange.
I like Carson Wentz. I like him a lot. I do. And I love Taylor Heineke. So I think they're in a way better quarterback situation that a lot of teams right now. So I'm with you. There's a lot of things in Washington I don't like, but those are a couple things I do like. And to your point, Stacey, the Cowboys are right now in the 4th best position from what I read tonight in salary cap space. They have $22.5 million in cap space available. So they're setting the stage to be enticing for a Sean Payton to come in there. And I think that you're right. I think that, there's a lot to work with them. And also,
Okay, good stuff. Well, we got to roll. We got to get out of here. So there's our quick look in the much too early 2022 NFL offseason at America's team, the Dallas Cowboys. And before we get into parting shots, I know you will agree, I want to send out a big shout out and condolences to the families of Tony Siragusa, who we lost today unexpectedly, and Jalen Ferguson of the Ravens, the Raven organization, dealing with some tragedy tonight. And big loss, big loss. There's no words for that. But moving into our parting shots, what say you, Scout, as we close out this week?
Well, I'm going to do something for you this week.
Oh.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Kurt Warner.
Okay. I say it's not my birthday.
Happy birthday to you.
You beat me to it. You stole my thunder in parting shots. You son of a biscuit. Okay.
I did my research tonight.
Apparently you did. However, thank you, Bang, for being with the Scout here in our closing seconds.
Bang.
I will just say this in my parting shots. Thank you for that melody to one of the greatest quarterbacks of my lifetime and my favorite, Kurt Warner of the Rams. But my final parting shot is also a happy birthday to world champion starting running back Cam Akers of the champion Los Angeles Rams. So it's 2 big Ram birthdays this week, tonight, at the time of this taping. So my parting shot is I tip my hat to two players I love because legends wear horns, baby. So there we go. That's it for us this week. Follow the Scout, Sports Illustrated Jets, Sports Illustrated Lions. More stuff forthcoming. As always, you can catch him over on Twitter at Whatever It Takes. Check out his book, Whatever It Takes book. Like, subscribe. You will find this episode on YouTube as well, folks. We do have a football group called the Blindside Blitz on Facebook that's just brand new. We would love to hear from you guys. Tweet at us too at the Dirty Pocket on Twitter. Thanks again, my friend. Next week, we will, we're not going to tease it. We're going to talk about it, and then we will bring a new team next week. But stay tuned. Thanks for everybody for joining us. Once again, MTO, thank you, my friend, for joining us after a week off where we didn't even announce it here on the Dirty Pocket. For myself and the Scout, we'll see you next week.
Sounds good. Hey, Micah Parsons, in case you're watching, don't take so many plays off. Get into that Dirty Pocket.
Okay, Mike, I'm cutting him off. Thanks, folks. See you next week.